This is Underdog Portfolio Weekly, hosted by Scott Conn.
What is good, everyone? Welcome back to another Underdog Portfolio Weekly. And as you can see, we have fired up another Bestball Mania 5. And on the screen, you see some guests with me. I'm hanging with the co-hosts of the Bestball Night School, was on their own for a little while and have joined the DD podcast feed for the last couple months doing their own underdog content. So we have already fired up a BBM 5. I got Ed, I got Jeremiah. They are both drafting their own teams right now on the screen. Let me work on getting the logistics of getting it shared. But yeah, we are doing 4.0, fellas. This is Bestball Mania Live 4.0 live draft for this season. So what's good? Hopefully you guys can focus on your drafts while we are drafting the first round here. Ed is in the 12 spot, and Jeremiah is in the 5 spot. I got the 101 and got Christian McCaffrey. So here we go. Fellas, what's going on? I went CMC. Jeremiah went Amon-Ra. Ed is about to pick on the turn. What's good? Glad for you guys to be with me tonight.
Hey, thanks for having us. Appreciate you, Scott. And it's cool to see as a spread out. We were talking 1, 6, 12 would be ideal. Well, you chop it up. We're 1, 5, and then Ed's there at the 12. So we're spread beginning, middle, late. So this will be real fun exercise. Just a lot of fun. I went Amon-Ra St. Brown. And what did Ed go? Puka and Marvin Harrison. He double taps. So you got Rams and Cardinals there. All right.
Yeah,
Ed,
I tried to go
that's a great start. Hell yeah. Talk about it.
Love it. Love Puka at 112. I haven't had that happen yet. So that's pretty cool.
What have you been doing if you do draw the 12 spot and the receivers just go and you're sitting at, do you really want to take Jahmyr Gibbs? I have a hard time going RB receiver at the turn. It's almost like I either want to go RB and start off with a certain build, or I just want to feed receivers until I'm done with the threshold that I typically align with. So how have you thought through that when you're on the turn? Have you gone any RB receiver, or are you like me where it's just got to be like 2 receivers or 2 running backs?
I mean, I've gone Gibbs and a receiver, and I don't really like how any of those builds really sort of pan out. So I've done that before, just because, if he's there, I think you've just got to do it just based off of ADP just to see what it looks like. I think Jeremiah says all the time, you don't know how you're going to feel about it until you click it and make it happen. But for me, I've done that a couple times. Unfortunately, I don't really like what's played out on that so far. So I think, double tapping receiver, either going, Drake London, and Garrett Wilson if he falls, or London and another receiver, either Harrison or someone else. AU potentially. I like how that turns out more so than RB receiver or even RB.
Jeremiah, what do you think about the Josh Allen going at the 204 to the team that drafted A.J. Brown, and talk about a wrench thrown into. That's probably a team that was likely going to be targeting a potential Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen stack, and instead, or Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown stack, and instead they take Josh Allen probably a round and a half early. I'm going to tap here. We're going to go Miami. We're going to go Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, and I love doing the RB start. This isn't technically an RB start because I'm on the turn, but effectively I'm knocking 2 out, which Ray and I drafted the other night on Destination Chill, and we both ended up with 4 running back builds, and it was simply because that's how the board fell to us. But it feels very liberating just to be able to hammer receivers later without really any regard to certain type of thresholds or values. So I'm double tapping Waddle, Achane. Jeremiah has gone Amon-Ra, Debo. So you have the Lions and Niners stack working already. Very easy. I think very popular in terms of people doing that with Laporta probably in round 3 if he falls potentially. How do you differentiate yourself, though, when you do start with Amon-Ra, Debo, Laporta, knowing there's going to be, thousands of other teams that started the same way, right? How do you differentiate yourself if you know you're going to have 5+ teams that look like that? What do you do?
So I had a draft just like this. It was a BBM. I actually went Amon-Ra, Debo, and I skipped on Laporta. And I ended up with, the board gave me Lamar, Mandrews. So I veered in a different direction. I ended up getting some secondary build on that game where I got David Montgomery. Oh, beautiful. Let's go, Malik Neighbors. I ended up going in that different direction in round 3. It steered me to opportunity with Baltimore. Later on, I didn't plan on it. I was still thinking I could end up with some Purdy and some Goff. Well, sure enough, Caleb fell just right to my Roma Dunze. So what you have to be ready for is what the board gives you and draft through to get 2. So don't necessarily follow the same ripple as everyone else. In that instance, I could have gone Sam Laporta, but why don't I just give myself another out because of what could present itself to me in round 4 and 5? And then, of course, possibly Kittle's there if I still want it. But if you love something, you let it go. What do you think of that, Scott?
Well, I like the idea of not being too married to a certain correlation early on. It gives you multiple outs. It'll be interesting to see what you do with Malik Neighbors because he's also a tough player to kind of bring back anything other than Anthony Richardson or a couple random Giants. Laporta goes 2 spots later to the team with Brandon Ayuk. So that's going to be one where if you guys just play nice with each other, somebody will get Purdy, somebody will get Goff. Right. Nobody else should be interested in either one. And then Cooper Kupp goes 4 picks before Ed. Ed, were you hoping Cooper Kupp came back?
Yeah. I was hoping, but his ADP has been rising a lot lately. So I wasn't really banking on it. I'm actually pretty glad that Tank Dell is still here, so I will take him. And I'm actually going to go Derrick Henry too for some additional correlation. So, I was hoping for Kupp to come back, but his ADP has been spiking up. I didn't think he was going to make it to pick 36 here.
You went Derrick Henry over Zay Flowers. And was that you just wanted to lock in a running back? You could have gone either one for the same concept of getting correlation and building into that game. Next team goes Zay Flowers. Why Derrick Henry? Was it something about getting a running back locked down early or what?
I just don't have that much Derrick Henry exposure, particularly after, after the draft, and after, this main NFL season started. I just want to get some more Henry there. And, Zay Flowers, quite honestly, I don't know. I could see it very easily that, Mark Andrews is the guy there. Zay, I think he's been getting he's been getting dragged on Twitter lately a bit. And I'm probably one of the people that thinks that his ADP and Mark Andrews' ADP should be flipped. So I just went Henry here because I just wanted to get some more Derrick Henry on some of my squads.
The uncorrelated Jalen Hurts falls to the 406, given the team with A.J. Brown passed on Hurts and took Josh Allen in round 2. I thought Hurts might even fall further. Kelsey goes. Jeremiah is up. Goes Terry McLaurin. Jeremiah, I know you love that. Let me just lock down Terry McLaurin and just wait to see where his quarterback falls, right? And if I get him, I get him. But was that the pick there? Is just giving yourself another out potentially?
Because I know it's kind of like I think you should leave, where he's like, I'm trying to work on something here. And that's really the big brain. I know what I have at 53 where I may want to go. Granted, like you said, I'm going to have outs. Where I go at 53, I can't go at 53 with Terry. So having Terry there, I like him. I really think he could be the nut stack with Jaden Daniels. And you think about price point, where Terry McLaurin is and where Jaden Daniels are going. I think if Terry McLaurin reaches his potential, look at that payoff where we're paying these prices for him. I like what you did, Scott, here. I see you're on the clock. I'll let you think a little bit. You got CMC, Waddle, Achane. I love that build from the 101. Just yank the steering wheel in the direction of getting that Miami exposure. And then you have some secondary availability for your San Fran Lions there. And then, of course, you have outs with the Cleveland Browns. So I like what you got going on there.
I'm going to break Ed's heart here.
Well, he wasn't falling to me anyway, Scott. But
I'm going to go Trey McBride, and I'm going to make him make a decision on Kyler Murray if he really wants him on the turn, because I'm setting it up. I could have gone Mahomes, Hollywood, Brown, which is staring me right in the face, but I have quite a bit of that, and I haven't been able to navigate really over to Spike Week yet. So I am going to lock in a receiver. I'm going to take Christian Kirk. It gives me an out for a quarterback later. But I have quite a bit of the Mahomes Hollywood already. So I already have a couple teams built like that. 15% Hollywood in BBM. So I'm passing on that. I was hoping for Lamar Andrews, which never falls right to the teams picking in this spot. It's a couple picks away. The Lamar Andrews is an absolute smash that I could have taken there. But I kind of like how these teams shape up. When you go early running back, it kind of feels like you also have to consider going an early tight end or quarterback stack potentially as well, just to maximize the number of receivers you can take. So that's the way that I'm probably headed here. Like I said, I took McBride. Kyler by ADP should fall right back to me. But obviously, if Ed wants him, given his Marv Puka stack, I'll force him to take him. But yeah, went a little bit of a different direction. Would you guys have gone, Ed, would you have gone Mahomes, Hollywood, Brown there, given that it was sitting there? Or do you think it was just probably a very player-specific or situation-specific pick there?
Yeah, I don't think I would have gone Mahomes, Hollywood there. For me, like, it's a little bit of a reach for Hollywood, in my opinion. I would sort of just let him. I like players sort of just coming to me in these drafts. You're doing so many of these that, like, there's no reason to reach for players at all, in my opinion. But still a solid build there. Do you feel pressed though, Scott, because like I've done a lot of like RB heavy builds. Do you feel pressed at all come, wide receiver when you're like, you've got two running backs here, you've got a tight end, you're at this point hoping that Kyler is going to come back to you. We'll see if he does, because I'm about to pick here. Do you feel pressed at receiver at all when you start off this way? Because I know I do. It's just, to me, it's like horrible.
Yeah, I'll let you make your picks and talk through them, as Jeremiah went Anthony Richardson to pair with Malik Neighbors. So I like that. So Ed, you're
Scott,
up, and then I'll talk through your question.
Sure. So I will go CJ Stroud here at 60 to correlate with Tank Dell. And I've got to think a little bit more about where to go here.
What about Joe Mixon? Is that too much?
It's too much, man. I don't like going like all in, and I definitely don't like going like double running back super early here. So I'm just going to go with best player on the board with Jayden Reed.
Okay.
Best player on the board per ADP, I should say, with Jayden Reed.
That's fair. That's fair. To answer your receiver question, depending on what receivers you get early and depending on what running backs you have already, it opens up to a lot of correlation later. I have multiple quarterback outs right now with what I've already selected. And I think the biggest picks for me are going to be these next couple rounds. Obviously, I'm going to target Kyler if he falls to me. That's an obvious one, because the Kyler McBride stack, when you can get a stack like that, when you've already gone RB heavy, you're essentially saving yourself 2 roster spots, right? I don't probably need a third QB or a third tight end, depending on where else I pick. But those other receivers that I take, So the receivers I take in the next couple rounds, along with my second tight end, is going to probably dictate some of the correlation I have late with the receivers that I get later on in the draft. Like Ladd McConkey. If you could have gotten Ladd McConkey on a team like this, there's plenty of Patriots options later, right? Like there's other options where I'm very comfortable saying I know there's going to be players later that I can correlate with. So I think that's the thing, is the correlation sometimes doesn't fall right depending on who you're drafting in these mid rounds. There's certain teams that, if you go Jordan Addison, there's a couple Green Bay receivers I can get later, right? There's going to be other players I can get later that correlate. If you're in on Houston and Baltimore, San Fran or Detroit, like there's very little after the first 6 rounds. They're all gone. So there's no point in even building those stacks out. So, Coach, you went Hopkins. What was that? Just giving yourself another out?
Just another out and a different wrinkle for the fact that I could have gone George Kittle, but I got to think
Kittle.
I'm in the single digits, and I already took A. Rich, so I'm going to likely push tight end down. Another thing on my team build, and while you're working on your turn pick, since I have A. Rich, I talk about how much I love Jane Daniels. Well, they both have a Week 14 bye, so I'm not interested in packing on 3 quarterbacks. Had I not gotten Richardson, so the path I laid out, I get Terry McLaurin over there at pick 44, and then I got to see, can Anthony Richardson fall to me at 53? Had Richardson not fallen to me at 53, then I probably could have gone in on a receiver and then ended up later with Jaden Daniels.
So I'm in a tough spot here because I should go Kyler Murray, but I've been able to lock in Brian Thomas and Christian Kirk. I do have the Miami group already. I could pass on a quarterback here. I'm going to take Kyler just because that is what I planned, but I'm going to talk through it here in a minute. In theory, now that I have both Jaguars receivers, I could have gone with just another player that I can correlate out. I could have drafted another receiver if I wanted. I could have drafted probably another receiver, but I had multiple outs at quarterback, right? I'm fine with Tua. I could have the Watson bring back. I could have taken Trevor Lawrence. There's always the Will Levis bring back. Like I had multiple options if I didn't want to go Kyler there. I stuck with the plan. But had I known, it would have been Brian Thomas, which is probably a 50-50 shot based on where his ADP is. I could have gone in a different direction and targeted T-Law because here's the thing. Nobody's going to want Trevor Lawrence now, right? He's probably going to fall to like QB 16 or 17. And what I'm hoping is that he falls down to, I don't know, guys, you think he'll fall to me at the, the 11 spot? That's right at his ADP. You think I can push it another 2 rounds and he might still be there? You never know. But that's where I would take my second QB.
Maybe the Evan Ingram person. All right, now I'm going to do something a little bit different.
I mean, it correlates with what you already have going, right?
Essentially, in a prior draft, DeMont was my number 1 running back. I had a very similar build to this, so I'm not trying to do the same thing. And there is that person after me. So I found out right away, had I wanted to go on that path, I had to take David Montgomery there. I do like what you say about the Jaguars players. You lock them up, and T-Law could possibly fall to you. It's worth pushing because you're going to have some different outs that you build throughout your draft. And then have you considered Tua? Capping your stack with Tua at all?
So I think the cool thing is, other than the Tyreek manager, which we can scroll up and see where the Tyreek manager is at. So the Tyreek manager already has Mahomes. So I think I can push Tua and T-Law and potentially try to get one of them in round 12, 13. You know what I mean? And just see if they fall to me. If they don't, no sweat off my back because I already have Kyler. But I think that's the way to play it if I'm looking at a QB2, because I'll definitely be in a 2 QB build. Ed, you're on the double tap. What you thinking?
Yeah, I'm going to go and lean with Christian Watson here to pair him with Jaden Reed. And I'll get some correlation play with another running back in Aaron Jones.
And Jordan Love is still on the board. Probably not going to come back to you, Ed. Is that a...
Probably not. I mean, I'm hoping to push him down because I feel like if someone could take him potentially and try and get dubs, I guess. But I've seen Love fall. I've seen, I mean,
You see
you
Burrow
talked about your-
fall if the person that has Chase takes another quarterback. I've seen Burrow fall at least a round. You know what I mean? Like, this is the range of QBs that they will fall to the teams that already have players that are spoken for with the correlation or the stacks. They will fall. So that is an interesting strategy. I heard JJ Zacharyson talking about that if you buy into certain stacks, you actually can create value for you later with quarterback, because nobody else, if you get, what were we talking about before the stream? If you get in a room where everybody is just focusing on their board, they're not looking at your Tua or your T-Law or your Joe Burrow and going, man, I just have to take that ADP value. They're just focused on their team. Like, let me ask you, are any of you three right now interested in Joe Burrow?
No.
Hell no. Hell no.
Nope.
Doesn't matter where he falls, right?
Nope.
He's not even sorted on your board, right? I mean, right now he is a good, what are we looking at? 12 picks past his ADP, and he just is sitting there, and none of us are interested. The Chase manager is up, and let's see if he goes Burrow, but he already has Lamar Jackson. So who the hell knows where he's going to fall to? And we want him to take Burrow, right? With Lamar, we probably want a team like this to take Burrow. It just makes it probably hurts his team relative to the league, I think.
There we go. There you go.
Burrow.
There it goes.
Could he not have waited for Burrow to come back to the next round, right?
Right, and find out, and then really, okay, now I got to pick it up off the ground.
Yes. Yep. All right. I am up in one pick. This is falling beautifully for me, I think.
And you were talking about, do you make this push T-Law here beyond this turn? Is that correct?
Oh, I mean, definitely pushing T-Law past this, because his ADP is not for another two rounds. And T-Law 2 are sitting there. Yeah.
Yeah.
First pick here is obvious. Getting Tony Pollard to fall to me, knowing I'm going to probably need only 4 running backs correlating with the Jags that I already have. That's beautiful. And then receivers are at a point now where I'm probably looking at what else can I correlate later. So I'm looking at Browns. I'm looking at San Fran. I'm looking at Rams. There's plenty of those options. I am going to lean. You know what? I have 0 of this player, so I'm just going to go best ADP. I'm going to take Cortland Sutton. I have 0 Cortland Sutton. Yep. This has been a blind spot where I just am never taking receivers. So Cortland Sutton, I can bring it back with Bengals in week 17 if I want to. So there you go.
And Cortland Sutton is such a receiver. He's a bailout guy. When you need a wide receiver in that desert where everybody else is putting their head down for running back, you can go out and get you some Cortland Sutton, and he can be your 4th receiver if you're trying to recover, sometimes your 5th. And that's a good pick, something different. You really need him to hit, but remember, these are bargain prices that you're paying for him. So I like what you did there, trying to find a blind spot too.
And throws a wrench in the draft. Tua goes 2 rounds ahead of ADP to the Tyreek Hill manager. And I don't understand that pick, guys. Do you? That early?
He already has Mahomes on his roster too.
And the only other threat for Tua is probably me, and I pick behind him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no sense.
Interesting.
Well, you also had in this draft the person who reached beyond for Josh Allen. And let's see how their team is right now. They got Brown, Allen, Pacheco, Cooper, Rashad White, Alvin Kamara, Jake Ferguson, Zamir White. Do you see anything big brain there?
All random.
Yeah.
All the players are just random. There's no, clearly they took them in a certain order with specific correlation. Very interesting. Very interesting. And that Tua pick is just mind-blowing to me, because I am the one threat in the draft for Tua. And I already have a quarterback, and I pick on the other side of that person's next pick. If they really wanted to, it's guaranteed he would have come back. So we've seen some very interesting picks. Very interesting picks. Ed, what are you thinking here in a couple?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously was hoping that Jordan Love would fall, but he does not, unfortunately. I was hoping to push him down with Jane Reed and Watson. I'm probably gonna hit up some running back. I'm pretty good with where I'm at wide receiver. This is sort of where it dries up, although I may dip my toe in a little bit, just a little bit. We'll see.
Jaden Daniels still sitting on the board, Jeremiah.
Mm-hmm.
How about that? And in this, and it's crazy because in this rogue QB draft, I can see a guy like Jaden Daniels falling a couple more spots because there's QBs spoken for pretty much everywhere on this side of the board. I mean, Ed already has one. Ed, if you would have known that there'd be a naked Jaden Daniels sitting here with multiple Atlanta run backs later, would you have passed on CJ Stroud and just taken Jaden Daniels?
Yeah, probably in retrospect. We got a little bit of a problem here.
Yeah, I'll definitely have a decision to make at 116. And there's no shot he's going to make it to 125. Then what goes into my brain is now I will have to go for a 3-quarterback build, hit Daniels. My only problem is the way my build is now, I'm dusty. I don't have any tight ends. So if I'm pushing tight end, pushing for a 3rd quarterback, then I'm looking at a 3-3 on my onesie position. I'm not so sure I want to do that. What do you think? How advisable is it to steer in that direction, Scott, to a 3-3 or Ed? What do you guys think?
To me, not advisable. I tend to pick either 3 QBs or 3 tight ends, and that's it.
Yep.
Kirk Cousins goes ahead of Jaden Daniels, which makes I'm baffled at that pick. Brock Purdy goes ahead of Jaden Daniels. Wow. There's only 2 teams that don't have a quarterback. One of them just took Brock Purdy. Jeremiah, he may fall into your lap because unless this team that does not have a QB and they do not take Jaden Daniels.
Okay. If it's disgusting, but what I will do is if he falls to me, I will hold my nose and just draft 2 tight ends. Oh, there he is. Okay. But hey, there's some insight of what you would do in that situation. Okay.
Yes. You're probably a little relieved, honestly, that happened. Like, I hate to say it, but it would have kind of thrown your mojo off a little bit. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure. Okay, cool. Here we go. Looking for my stars.
A.D. Mitchell, okay. Javonte Williams, all right.
What do you think of Javonte? There was a little bit of a buzz about, I think it came from Cecil Lammey, just talking about the prospect of the Denver backfield. What do you make of Javonte Williams, Scott, or Ed? Maybe could he be traded? Could he be cut? Or do you think he'll be on the roster with a flattened target share and carry share?
I think it makes no sense to cut him. He's on a rookie contract. Trading him, you'd get 0 value for trading him. So, I mean, sure, you could trade him, but like, what are you getting? A 7th-round pick? Oh, man. I would have taken David Njoku there because he fell so far. And I do have the Miami correlation already. That was a surprising pick to me. But, live and you learn. So I'm going to go back to the well, and we're going to hit Jerry Jeudy here. Kind of the same. I might have gone Njoku, Jerry Jeudy, and just really loaded up on that Miami game. But instead, I am going to relieve myself. No more running backs in this draft, fellas. I'm taking Chase Brown, and I am done. Correlates with my Cortland Sutton. So, again, able to get some correlation with both picks. I would have loved the Jerry Jeudy, David Njoku back-to-back there at that spot.
Double tap. Yep.
And I would have been done at tight end. I could have been flexible with my second quarterback. T-Law did go. I would have considered him, but no pressure with my quarterback, too. So I could have gotten tight end out of the way and added another correlative piece with Jeudy, but doesn't always work out perfectly. But I'm very happy with the team thus far through 11. Jared Goff goes. So we're starting to get quarterbacks flying off the board. T-Law, Goff. Jeremiah, what you thinking here at the 11-5? You're on the clock.
At this point, 1-2-7-0 build. There goes Dallas Goedert. I had considered him a bit. I'm just going to dive into some contingent value with Blake Corum.
Love it.
And, talk about Purdy. He went early and Goff went early. We've had what was it, Tua as well, and Josh Allen. So that's been the theme of this room. The three of us have stayed out of each other's way, put our heads down. I'm not sure what these other people have been doing, but we've been getting a lot of odd QB snipes. This will push me in a different direction. I had hoped, okay, I missed the out on Purdy, and I missed the out on Jared Goff. So you draft through to get to my game stack started off with Amon-Ra Debo. Then I also have some JMO. Now that's going to maybe look like some of my secondary game build and not my primary game build due to not having the quarterback. And then directionally, I have neighbors with A.D. Mitchell and Anthony Richardson. So I can tack, especially on the back end, some of those Giants wide receivers if I want to. Depends on how disgusting I want to get. Ed, how do you feel about your team so far?
Yeah, I mean, I feel okay about it. It's nothing too crazy. I was hoping for that Jordan Love pick. If he fell, man, I would have been pretty over the moon about that, but unfortunately didn't happen. Quarterback has been wonky in this absolute draft. Baker in this draft, Baker Mayfield just went at pick 129 here.
That's a guy you can see fall forever in some drafts.
Forever. I think I took him with Cade Otton. This is just ugly draft for me. It was like it was like pick 190, around there, and I tagged him with Cade Otton, both well below ADP, and it's just like, all right, fine, I'll do it. This is a little tough here. Let's see. I think with the way that this room has been approaching quarterback and my competition here, I'm going to actually take Stafford to pair with Puka. Not optimal to take him this high, but I don't think he makes it back to me at 156. The guy who had unless he just didn't he take Baker and I just missed that? No,
the team. Yeah. Are you talking about the team that has Cooper Kupp?
Yeah, the team that has Cooper Kupp. He only has Justin Herbert on his roster, so I think that he was probably going to take Stafford there. So
when you're on the end, you don't have a choice sometimes.
It's tough. The end is so tough. I hate drafting on the end. I really do, because you just got to stake it. It's terrible.
Hey, did you guys see TJ Hawkinson went 134? What are we doing? You could get him 15 to 20% or 15 to 20 round or picks later. It's like Aldi prices or McDowell's. This is crazy.
It's called the 150 rule. If it's in the 150s and Hawkinson is still there, then I'll take him. But I'm not going, oh, he's a round past his ADP. Let me take him. You know what I mean? So receivers are flying off the board. Jeremiah is up. You are working on a 1-3-7-0 build. Tight ends, you're probably waiting.
I'm still, the only person there is Pat Freiermuth. But really, I'm like the bug in Bug's Life, where I'm ready to get zapped. I love me some Marshawn Lloyd, man. And you took him in another draft with me, so I got him this time. We're not breaking up anybody's stacks here, but just a testament, to Marshawn Lloyd. He's such a good contingent value player. Scott, what do you make of him in the Green Bay Packers offense? What do you think his immediate share would be with a fully healthy Josh Jacobs?
I think his immediate share could be one touch a game. It could be very low. So, I mean, he's still got to beat out AJ Dillon. I know he's back on a cheap contract, but you never know who's going to get first reps. I am up. Some easy picks for me, at least one pick. I'm going to go Jermaine Burton, since I already rolled with the Cortland Sutton Chase Brown stack. Go back to my spike week here real quick. I could go Gabe Davis. I really don't want to go with another Jaguars receiver. There's not really much correlation at tight end. QBs, I could go QB2 here. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to go QB2. I'm going to go Deshaun Watson. I'm done at QB. I have the Browns, Dolphins game heavily invested in week 17. I think the first show I did on here, I did a huge, heavy Miami and Cleveland stack, but Kyler's right on that fringe for me where like I'm only drafting 2 QBs, but I'm not opposed to taking what I think could be a high upside weekly quarterback in Watson as my QB2 with correlation. And I had to take him there just like you did, Ed.
Yeah.
I don't know in this QB economy if he's going to wait another 22 picks, given he's about 10 picks past or at before ADP here. So had to lock it in. And I'm basically focused on one more tight end and receivers the rest of the way now. Makes it easy for me.
Jeremiah, what are you thinking coming up here?
So I had like Pearsall, but that's a little bit too much into what's now a secondary stack. Had I had somebody like Purdy or Goff, I would think I would just maneuver a little bit into Ricky Pearsall here. At this point of the draft, whatever receiver desert we're at, I don't want Roman Wilson. That would just be not really something that I want to veer towards. I'm going to actually go with Kendre Miller, and I am just at this point going to decide, do I want to go 5 running backs or 6 running backs with this build? I'm likely going to park it at 2 quarterbacks, 3 tight ends. So then I'll have that decision between running back and receiver, which way I want to total it. Scott, I like what you did with getting Deshaun Watson for some of that Miami Cleveland share. It's just a cool move where you get early exposure to that Miami Cleveland game and you can gain back some control with the fact that you have Deshaun Watson so late. So drafters out there, if you get sniped on Tua, have no fear, draft through to get 2, and then you can end up with somebody like Deshaun Watson, especially in round 10, the price that you pay for Jerry Jeudy. Why not?
Yeah. And you can get a couple of cheap options for that game if you wanted more. If you don't have 2 early Miami players, you can get Elijah Moore. You can get Malik Washington. You can get Jonnu Smith. Like there's options you can take. Odell Beckham, if that's your flavor of the week. There's a couple of running backs in that game you can take. You can take Deontay Foreman if you would like. Like there's plenty of bringbacks if you're early invested in Miami on Cleveland that you can take. But I do think it's important to talk about after Ed makes his pick here. I want to ask you guys about what is too much to be invested in a given game. I've done some builds where I've had 8 or 9 players from one game, and it feels like once you have that many, and I'll shut up so Ed can make his picks in private, in focus here. What you thinking, Ed?
Well, I was hoping, as crazy as it sounds, I was hoping that Ty Chandler would make it back to me, so I maybe own that Vikings backfield. So I'll just pivot to my next, running back here, and I'm gonna
Jalen Wright,
and I will I'll buy into some of the Shoddy B hype here. We'll see.
I mean, he's moved up quite a bit. Like he's moved up at least a round in the last 2 weeks or so. He's gotten some buzz from OTAs in terms of, he's looking at that. What is it? A 4th year breakout now, Jeremiah? You buying into it? Or is it more of he's actually a fairly reasonably priced correlation pick where he goes, like wide receiver 74, and there's guys like AD Mitchell that are going 3 rounds higher? I'm not sure AD Mitchell's better than Rashad Bateman right now. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Oh, good. And Pearsall just went, so thank God, because I would have had a decision there. With Bateman, is the middle of his foot okay? Was it his Liz Frank that he had? And maybe he's back. The only concern I would have is you got Walker, Flowers, likely as well with Andrews. But you have to also
Aguilar, don't forget about him. Yep. He's one of the fantasy football pests where he will steal about 100 PPR points a year from your receiver room, but actually never help you at all.
To your point, the price that you're paying is just perfect. So it's not like you're too invested.
So I'll let you make your pick. But Ed, while he's making his picks, what's too much in one game? That question came up in our Discord today. Is 8 players in one game too much? At that point, are you even going to be able to get there because you have so much concentration in 2 offenses?
No. I mean, ideally, I think you have like maybe at most 5 at most, I think. And even that is pushing it. I think 4. And I think like even like just bare bones, if you get like the quarterback, a main wide receiver, and then like a receiver on the bring back, like that's probably ideal. So really, for me, like attacking these week 17 stacks, you don't want to just go like, okay, I'm just going to draft a team of Dolphins and then like 4 Browns. Like no, like you're just overexposed at that point, So I try and keep it as minimal as possible with respect to the correlation. And ideally, I've got a quarterback, a main receiver, and then a bring back, just like a DFS play, really.
Yep. I like it. Well, I'm on the clock here in a second. I have a 2-4-6-1 build. I'm probably shooting for. I may consider a third quarterback. I was listening to Mike Leone today talking about 3 QB builds and how they've been favorable in terms of advance rates. My only question is, have I invested a little too much in my first quarterback to consider taking 3? We will see. But I'm just going to hammer receiver here. So I have multiple options. I'm going to go Troy Franklin. Give me another option on the Broncos. And then I'm going to go right back to the Kyler and Trey McBride stack, and I am going to get the old savvy veteran Demarcus Robinson and add him. I know Ed might have targeted Demarcus Robinson, maybe not, but it's another receiver to add. Gives me some correlation to Arizona, where I did not have any Rams exposure. That's the last Rams exposure piece that I can get, other than Colby Parkinson if you're buying him as the starting tight end. But we have 3 picks left. I'm already at 8 receivers. And people, if I post this on Twitter, people are going to go, man, those receivers are shitty. They're never going to win, But there's a reason I'm going to draft 10 of them here, most likely. All right, Jeremiah, you got 4 picks left. Right now you got working a 1-5-7-1 build. What's your QB2 plan? If you don't mind saying it out loud and maybe not jinxing yourself.
Well, shy of this person taking in my head, what's percolating, right? I've got Will Levis and Daniel Jones and Chuba. Boom. Thank you. This is just going to make me feel better. I was deliberating some Chuba there. We love us some Chuba Hubbard. Let me click Will Levis and talk it through. I love Chuba Hubbard, 20% exposure post NFL draft for me. We heard some Jonathan Brooks news there. So I like that pick for them. What I was deliberating, though, Will Levis, Daniel Jones, we talk in the Discord a lot, especially with Josh. Like Josh will echo this, where you don't want 2 quarterbacks necessarily from the same Week 17 game. So as I was thinking about Daniel Jones towards Malik Neighbors, a little bit on my periphery at 158 went Wan'Dale Robinson. And had Wan'Dale Robinson fallen to me, I might have been prone and inclined to go towards some Daniel Jones. So now I have some Will Levis, and that can interfere with some of the Jags Titans builds that people have out there. But remember, earlier on, I gave myself an out where I got D-Hop in round 6. And I have, with my tight end build, the possibility of Chigo Okonkwo as my second tight end. That's just something to differentiate. And then I also thought to myself, if I took Ben Sinnott, who has a Week 14 bye, remember this is the Commanders and Colts chop up, I cannot go towards Jelani Woods. So now that I have, if I possibly pull off that other tight end in Chigo Okonkwo, all right, snipers, go out there and get him, right? I can go for my third tight end and go and get Jelani Woods.
Ed is on the clock. Ed is currently working on a 1-4-7-2 build.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take my third tight end here.
Okay.
No fan. I'm just I have Dalton Schultz as my tight end one before I took Hunter Henry and Noah Fant here at the turn. No real correlation with respect to these guys. I'm just looking to hopefully get some tight end 1 weeks here to fill out that roster spot.
And with that, you've made your decision. You're going 3 tight ends and not 3 quarterbacks, right? So you're comfortable with Stroud and Matt Stafford?
I am, yeah, definitely, absolutely, for sure. I took Stroud as high as he did. If I'm taking a quarterback anywhere above like pick 100, I'm basically saying, okay, this is I'm going 2 quarterbacks. That's for me. That's the sort of like just basic line that I draw.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I thought about this all day today. I was listening to that Mike Leone show that he did earlier, and he talked about the 3 quarterback advance rate in previous BBMs and how 3 quarterbacks seem suboptimal in a 1 QB draft because there's going to be very limited times for your third QB probably to enter your lineup, right? But depending on the price you pay, like if I'm going to take 3 QBs, but I'm drafting all of them after round 13, that's where that advance rate comes into play because you didn't pay much for them. You have the option to probably pick the 3 you want based on who you've already drafted. So the 2 things he said was all 3 of them should be drafted probably outside of round 10 or later, right? But they all have to be correlated. But if they're all correlated, you have 3 games that you have exposure to in week 17, and you only needed one of those QBs to get you to week 17. 2 of the others could have had a dud week. The QB 25 by nature is going to have dud weeks 2/3 of the games this year, right? But if you can get 3 correlative games to week 17 with 3 QBs, which are still the highest scoring positions of all 4, you want to have 3, but only with that rule. So I'm sitting here debating like, man, do I really want to go a third QB? I probably don't, given that what I paid for Kyler Murray, but it's an interesting thought. So I am going to go, man. Ugh. I don't want to double tap tight end here, guys. I really don't. I shouldn't.
Oh man, are we gonna do some? Oh, he got taken. Sorry. Thought we were gonna do some Noah Fant.
We're going Jonnu Smith. Yes, we're not going Noah Fant. I'm going Jonnu Smith because I have the Watson Judy pair already. I shouldn't go 3 tight ends with Trey McBride. The same rule. Normally I go 3 and 2 or 2 and 3, but I'm not doing it here. I drafted McBride, Kyler early, so I'm just going to roll with man. We're going to go another Arizona piece. Zay Jones. Give me another shot since I don't have Marv or Michael Wilson. Give me Zay Jones as a second stacked Arizona piece. So unsexy picks when you're getting down to the late tight ends and receivers here, but at least both of them correlated. So I'm working on a 2-4-9-2 build with likely a 10th receiver coming down the pike. Ed, have you had any 10 receiver builds? Have you gone that gross?
No, I don't think I have, and it's because I usually prioritize receiver early and often. I mean, I think I've only really gone 9 tops, and that's usually when I double tap the anchor RB build and then forget about running back until like the pick the hundreds. Unless me,
are you taking a 5th running back here just to take an upside shot at somebody? Given I already have I have volume at receiver. And every single one of my receivers is correlated, right? So would you take a 5th running back, even though I invested very heavily in McCaffrey, Achane, Pollard, and Chase Brown?
I mean, you could. I mean, I guess you could always see who the last player in the draft that falls to you here. I think when you're drafting this late, the ideal move is to go running back, right? Because I mean, what's the likelihood that pick 216 and that pick is a wide receiver, and they're gonna find themselves
once or twice in your lineup at best. A running back could be a 0, but it also could be 5 times in your lineup if there's
could be a league winner. Could be a league winner.
Yes. All right, Ed is up to end the draft. He is working on a 2-4-7-3 build, so I'm guessing we are hitting a running back and a receiver here, right?
That is correct.
Got ended up. We're going with running back Braylon Allen. Okay. Another guy that is moving up, getting drafted in every draft now. Sometimes he goes higher than this. Actually, not terrible value for Braylon Allen.
He goes a lot. He's been going a lot higher than this lately, and it's crazy. I don't know what
he has. And I'll wait for Ed to pick, and I'll put this comment up there from Josh and talk through it in a minute. Last one. And Ed rolls with wide receiver Noah Brown. Okay. Don't see Noah Brown get drafted a lot. Talk through real quick. I actually kind of like the Noah Brown pick because he's going to be 10% or less rostered in BBM 5. So it isn't taking a receiver that might have a little correlation, but it's going to be drafted in 99% of drafts. You took a guy that's drafted in probably less than 10% of the field, barring there isn't an injury and people start drafting him later, right? Isn't there an advantage to get a guy that's just not rostered that frequently when you have him correlated? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're picking in the last round, right? I mean, this to me, especially if you're not going to be going running back, and the way that I sort of structured this team, I had to at least, I think, pick a wide receiver here. For me, like, you want to sort of get that correlation pick, and you want to get somebody who's just like not going to be on a lot of rosters and just hopefully hit a smash, right? Is Noah Brown gonna like be a league winner? No, but I mean, I if something happens to Nico Collins or Tank Dell or even Stephon Diggs, like, I mean, we've seen him do some really magical things with CJ Stroud, and since I've got Stroud on my roster, I figured I would just take a shot at him and hope for the best.
Well, and Jeremiah's making his last pick, so we'll let him make the pick and explain. That was easy for him. He went Mike Gesicki. I like that. I think back to the Noah Brown thing. Not only are you getting low ownership across the tournament, right? But when is it feasible that his opportunity would come? It's probably later in the year, right? It's not going to be week 1, probably week 2. It's not going to be early. But there's a chance week 17 they're resting guys for the playoffs, or somebody's banged up and they're missing a game, and all of a sudden he's in there, and his 1 or 2 chances to hit your lineup actually come when it matters most. So I think that's a key pick with receivers at the end of the draft for that reason, more so than running backs. The opportunity could come at any point. I could take Deontay Foreman, who's probably going to be my pick here, unless I want to go in a different direction. But Deontay Foreman, his opportunity could come in week 2 when CMC and Chase Brown and Tony Pollard and Devon A-Chain are all fine. And I'm going, man, I wasted that Deontay Foreman 2 touchdown game. I'm still going to take him just because I do think there's a chance that Nick Chubb and or Jerome Ford wear down at the end of the year as well, and he's still there. So I went Deontay Foreman. Fellas, we are done. That was a fun exercise. I think we got enough separation between our picks to explain what we were all trying to do. I'll go last in recapping my team, but we'll start on the very end. Ed, what do you think of the draft? Recap your team. Talk about your build. 60 seconds-ish.
Sure. So, I started off with some week 17 correlation with the Rams and Cardinals. Pivoted to some week 17 correlation with Houston and the Ravens. Tried to get Jordan Love to follow me. He didn't, because quarterback was absolutely crazy in this draft. Players were just going in places I've never seen them go before. That made me take Matthew Stafford at pick 133. And just round out the roster with some correlation picks and some players I like in, Jalen Wright, Hunter Henry, and Noah Fant.
So a 2-5-8-3 build for Ed. Again, did not go more than 2 quarterbacks if you have 3 tight ends. And I did want to throw that comment up for Josh. This is what Mike Leone was talking about. If you're going to go 3 QBs, take all of them after round 10 with a elite running back and elite tight end. Like, you're wanting to be at the very high end at running back and tight end, which is ensuring that you're probably going to go 2 tight ends, like locking it in, just like I did with McBride. But you're also unlikely to have to go 6 or 7 running backs because you've invested very early on a running back, which means you're probably only going 5 at most. It allows you that extra roster spot, 3-5-8-2, like you put on the screen. So thank you for clarifying that. Josh, Jeremiah, what do you think about your draft? You went with a 2-5-8-3 build as well. Talk about it.
Hey, and it's funny, we must have all listened to the same Mike Leone podcast today, because he was talking about if you get 2 out of 3 of ADP value, roster need, and roster construction, you are good when you're making your pick. So I think I tried to adhere to that. I saw a lot of that in this room from the 3 of us, the people who were taking quarterbacks. Who knows about that? But for my team, I started off with Amon-Ra, Debo, and then I had a ripple effect. Do I go Laporta? But I love me some Malik Neighbors, and I got to get those numbers up, just like they said in Wolf of Wall Street. Then I veer towards Terry McLaurin. I have the week 14 conundrum predicament of, hey, and this is why we have reps on reps. Terry McLaurin, I love me some Jaden Daniels. I think he's going to be the nut stack, but Anthony Richardson is there. So then that 14 knocked it out for the bye weeks. So then I had Richardson. I love that setup there. It took a lot of pressure off of me. For the rest of my receivers with DeAndre Hopkins. That set up a little wrinkle later, which ended up connecting with Will Levis. And part of my game stack in getting Anthony Richardson was, all right, well, maybe I really shouldn't go towards Daniel Jones. I need to have some other secondary stack that I have. Was only going to go to quarterbacks. Since I pushed tight end, I pushed past Laporta, I pushed past Kittle, and then Brock Bowers right at pick 100-ish in that area where we were drafting. He went just a little bit ahead of me. I would have taken him there, and of course that would have caused a different ripple to my draft. I liked how I closed it out with some AD Mitchell stack with Anthony Richardson, because I started off stack with the intention of Neighbors to try and get Anthony Richardson. Then, of course, my 3 tight ends, Bensonot, Chig. Chig goes with A. Rich. And then Mike Gesicki, just a steady hand. At running back, I waited till pick 92. So I really pushed as much as I could. Love Jalen Warren. And then it's just, if we're a fifth, Benson and Corum, Lloyd, Kendre Miller. And I've got 5 of them. So if was a fifth, I've got 5 running backs on that build. So I like it. Now, if it were to start today, week 1, not so much. But I like what I did, something different to this team. How about you, Scott?
I was going to say, actually, the build you had actually would have been a pretty decent spot to add a Chuba Hubbard to that kind of team, right? A guy that probably can give you some points early on when you have 3 rookie running backs as your RB 2, 3, and 4.
He went right before me.
Yeah, I know. And you didn't want to take him. You said that. You did not want to draft another share of Chuba, but in hindsight, it would have fit on your team. Any regrets not getting a giant bring back at all in the draft? Or does that not bother you?
Well, I do have Malik Neighbors.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Talking about late. Oh, but there was a point.
Yeah,
in
another
the draft.
giant. Yes.
There was, yes. And it was Wandale. Wandale got taken to me, I think, by the 11 pick. Yeah.
No consideration of like Darius Slayton or Jalen Hyatt over Luke McCaffrey, or just a preference pick?
Yes. What ended up happening there, because I've gotten some Slayton in the past, but Luke McCaffrey fell something like 17 spots. I just said, okay, let's take what's there. I was talking about round 18. We were widening that pool, right? And I was widening it so much in round 17. And then there, Luke McCaffrey just fell into my lap. So I took the ADP value.
I like it. And then myself, I went with a 2-5-9-2 build. I went with Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, early running back McCaffrey, Achane, Pollard, Chase Brown, Deontay Foreman. Receivers kind of all over the place: Waddle, Christian Kirk, Brian Thomas, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Jermaine Burton, Troy Franklin, Demarcus Robinson, Zay Jones. And then tight ends rounded it out with Trey McBride and Jonnu Smith. Wouldn't have hated that Njoku pick. Probably would have ended up with a similar build. Instead of Chase Brown, I could have taken Njoku, Jerry Jeudy. Would have worked out with me getting Watson. Might have been a little too much exposure, but I actually don't think 5 pieces, if it's Achane, Waddle, Njoku, Jeudy, Watson, those are good enough to where I'm not relying on, 2 peripheral guys like Jonnu Smith or Deontay Foreman. That's where it's a little bit of overkill. Had I gotten Njoku, I obviously wouldn't have taken a Jonnu Smith. Had I gotten all those Browns, I probably would not have taken Deontay Foreman at the end. Maybe I would have, because I seem to always take him, but this team doesn't need early production for Deontay Foreman. If that's your play, is Nick Chubb's not going to be ready. So maybe I'll regret that pick. It is the very last pick of the draft. It does correlate. Running back opportunity is seemingly random. Chubb could be back week 1 and then not make it to week 17. We don't know. You know what I mean? We just do not know. So I like the draft. I ended up with 3 players from 3 different teams. Ended up getting correlation with 6 different teams and 3 different games. And bye weeks look pretty good. So I'm happy with it. Any takeaways? Just draft as a whole, tips for people that really haven't started diving in, or anything going on right now with how things are shaking out in the drafts. Does it feel like it's getting a little bit stale, given that we draft all the time, every day? Does it feel like you're just drafting the same teams over and over and over, or what do you guys think?
Well, I think the challenge is we're in this dead, no news cycle. So we have to challenge ourselves in round 17 and 18 to accordion out and widen our player pool. And you also, in this draft, just understand, we were in a draft where people were taking quarterbacks all over the place where they shouldn't have. That's just a wrinkle and a wrench that you're going to have. And then to your point, the same exercise that you had when we were just one pick off. Had you, Scott, gotten David Njoku, the ripple effect of how your team would have looked, the way you thought, would have been different. So I think a good exercise to take out from this is each little ripple effect of where we had one or two guys when we were discussing, all right, where are you going with this? Which way are you thinking on that? Really just understand that if you have players for players, if you have 4 picks left to go, you should have 5 in your queue at least, because you're always ready to have that one that can slide in, because anything can happen. And at the quarterback position, it did happen tonight.
Yeah, I mean,
think
for me, like drafting, it doesn't really get too much stale because, as Jeremiah said, like, I mean, you're looking to just try and expand your player pool as much as you can. And Jeremiah talked about not taking Hubbard because he just already has too much of them, right? So that guy was already off your board essentially. Like for me, like I know I haven't really been I've been prioritizing trying to get like the Houston Ravens more so than when the schedule first released, because I feel like everybody when the schedule first released was like all over that game. And I think that I've been able to get some more exposure to that now. So I've sort of been prioritizing that lately. So, you can continue to draft throughout the summer and get just a larger player pool. And, all these drafts are going to be so unique. And that's sort of the best part about just entering a lot of these contests, is that you really diversify just the combinations that you have out there, and you get a lot of more potential live, entries when we hit week 17.
Yeah, I think it is key. Jeremiah hit on a point where it's a dead period. I think I'm 40 BBM drafts in, and obviously I'm trying to draft as many as I can, but I'm probably going to slow down and do more calculated live drafts between now and maybe the start of training camp. So it's going to give me about a month instead of doing 20 slow drafts at the same time, where I'm just meticulously going through. And that's the nice thing about the Spike Week tool. And if you're doing slow drafts, is I can watch each board as it develops, right? Meaning, like, I can look at my exposure every time I make a pick in every single one of those drafts and measure, okay, do I have too much of this? Do I have too much of that? I just looked. I'm not really over 22% of any players yet. So I'm not like way overexposed. I probably haven't done enough drafts to say, man, that 27%. I mean, there's people out there that have done 500 plus drafts. And if they're at 30%, they've clicked that player a lot. You know what I mean? So that maybe it's time to slow down.
Ray clicked 30%. Speaking of, he clicked Chuba Hubbard 30%. So shout out to Ray.
I mean, I'm curious if he would say I'm going to slow down on the Chuba Hubbard. Maybe that's a player he has just said I'm willing to go to 40% because nobody respects that.
Are the bags packed? And you're good to go on your trip.
That's another conversation that we could probably have another time. Is the problem with a guy like Chuba Hubbard and slowing down on him is there's still a very high potential of big closing value on Chuba Hubbard, where if they say, oh, Jonathan Brooks had a setback, he will start the year on PUP. Chuba Hubbard's going RB 35. You know what I mean? RB 30. He's going ahead of Tajay Spears and Chase Brown because, like, he's a starter now. You know what I mean? So, like, it's hard to say I'm not going to continue to draft him for that reason. Even if you're like, man, I have too much Chuba Hubbard, as long as he has a role, like, that's the kind of guy you want to be overexposed on. Because can't you see, Ed, him going round 10 if Jonathan Brooks is out to start the year? Round 10, round 11.
There was already some news, I think, that came out, or at least that I saw today, about Dave Canales coming out and saying, hey, listen, like, we're going to take it slow with Brooks. And I think I'm pretty sure he fell a little bit in this draft. I think he got taken at pick 96, right? Oh, 95, which he's got an ADP now, like just above, 90. So, he did fall a little bit here. And I think that's something that definitely could happen with Brooks as more of this leaks out. And that'll obviously make Hubbard a more attractive player for drafters.
Hey, if you go to Golden Corral, you'll see Chuba Hubbard there because it's going to be all you can eat for him.
That was a cheesy way to end the stream. But no, man, it's been fun drafting with you guys. This was a great setup. It went off without a hitch. It was nice for us to be able to all kind of talk through our teams from different spots on the board. We weren't fighting over. I don't think once did we ever say really, shy of Ed or I taking a correlative player, but we were at the other side of the draft board. So it didn't it wasn't like I'm sitting there going, oh, please fall to me, another 22 picks. You know what I mean? But this was fun to walk through this with you guys. I wanted to welcome you guys because we haven't done any pods or anything together. Welcome you guys to the network. You guys have been crushing it over the last couple months with your show. Tons of live draft underdog content on there. If you haven't checked it out, the Bestball Night School show on the DD feed. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Future plans with the pod? I mean, you guys have just been drafting and talking through your process all year. Is that the plan, what you're going to continue doing the rest of the summer?
We're going to do some of that. I think we're going to have some guests on potentially. Maybe some substitute teachers to the Bestball Night School for a little bit. To just come in and, give some guest lectures. But we're going to continue to, just ramp up the drafts that we're doing here and just go through like the process play behind each pick. I think that that's a really nice wrinkle that our podcast really adds to some of the content out there.
Jeremiah, you planning on doing any other drafts on other sites as part of the show? And if you don't want to spoil it, that's fine. But are you going to venture out to some other platforms as the summer goes on? Any consideration?
Well, I think according to my contractual obligation, I think it's just Underdog. But we could always look at the contract and see how I'm doing, and we might be able to venture into another platform as well. So,
I think they're. If Ray and I are talking about other platforms, you know what I mean? Yeah. I think it's possible that you could potentially venture out for a rogue draft or two. But appreciate you guys coming on. Where can they follow you guys on Twitter?
You can follow me at FF_litigator on the Twitter X. I usually will post a lot of some good drafts that I do there, some bad ones too, because sometimes you roll it and it gets out there, and I think that you just need to show like, hey, listen, I tried something, didn't work, and this is where I'm at. So you can follow me on X there. Jeremiah, where can people check you out?
You can find me on X at Coach Retzlaff1. I also have a solo pod, Bestball Study Hall. So it's going to look a lot like Bestball Night School, and it's just this game we love. So I appreciate, Scott, you having us on the show. Nothing but love for the Destination Devy community, Ray, and everybody else out there. It's a huge honor. So I can't say thank you enough. It's very humbling, and I appreciate it a lot, Scott.
Yeah, appreciate you both coming on and drafting with me. There'll be another live show. I have an awesome lineup of guests all summer to come on and draft with me. Probably will not be as expansive as this, where we're doing 3 different boards at one time. Mostly it's just somebody drafting with me in one draft. So that'll be coming up later. We'll take a break for 4th of July. I'm going to record a portfolio show going through everything that I've done, which is going to be daunting because we're going to go through the Pomeranian. We're going to go through the Hound Dog. We're going to go through the Superflex Puppy. All of these where there's a different unique spin on how many entries and what the strategy was behind it. It's not just BBM5. It's all the other components that come in. And the, the mini Schnauzer just dropped today?
Today. It's almost filled.
I was going to say, I was going to come on here and recommend anybody that loves this like portfolio approach, like go rip off 20 entries in that and pretend like this is your training wheels to next year wanting to get in BBM5. You know what I mean? Like it's $60 to enter that. Isn't it 20 entries, I believe? Or is it 50?
20 entry max, $3 per entry, $60. It's, it's a great way to sort of start ramping up some drafting here at Bestball, on Underdog for sure.
And go enter them like right now.
You're going to need to.
Like
I don't even know where it's at right now. It's probably close to 80. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm going to check real quick before we sign off, just so everybody knows. So we got the Mini Schnauzer 2. We are at 37 total entries, and right now we are at 70.7% full. So if you want to portfolio it, and I'm still deciding if I want to portfolio it or not. I'm either sitting out or I'm doing all 20. There's no point in doing 3. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if you're going to do it, you need to go and literally just enter. And you probably got to do, I'm guessing they're going to close the live drafts here very soon. So you probably got to enter at least 15 of those slow and spend the rest of the night drafting live if you want to get your 20 entries in. So appreciate everybody at Underdog for the platform, and we will be back next week with another live draft. Be chill, everybody.